Celebrities gone homeless in Los Angeles fire. $135 billion lost. Imagine waking up to the smell of smoke, the glow of flames on the horizon, and the sound of frantic evacuation sirens. Now picture this: multi-million-dollar homes reduced to ashes, entire neighborhoods wiped off the map, and celebrities like Paris Hilton and Anthony Hopkins left homeless overnight. This is not a movie script. This is Los Angeles 2025. Stick around as we uncover the devastating toll of the Los Angeles fire and the shocking stories of survival and loss, including over $135 billion in damages. Trust me, you won't believe what you're about to hear. In the heart of Pacific Palisades, where the elite of Hollywood lived in opulent mansions with breathtaking views, devastation struck without mercy. These homes, worth tens of millions, once symbolized success and luxury. Now, they stand as haunting reminders of nature's unrelenting power. From Academy Award winners to iconic filmmakers, no one was spared. Anthony Hopkins' $6 million estate, obliterated. John Goodman's beloved home, reduced to rubble. Even Paris Hilton's beachfront sanctuary couldn't withstand the blaze. But this wasn't just about celebrity mansions. Thousands of ordinary families lost everything. Homes filled with memories, heirlooms passed down through generations, and the sense of security they once had. The fire moved faster than anyone anticipated, fueled by relentless winds and a bone-dry landscape. Entire neighborhoods were wiped out in hours, leaving behind a trail of heartbreak and loss. Over 177,000 acres burned, 0% containment at its peak. This fire wasn't just a disaster, it was a force of nature that Los Angeles wasn't prepared for. Let's start with the Pacific Palisades, an area known for its breathtaking views and celebrity homes. Now, it's nothing but rubble and ash. Actor James Woods fought back tears as he shared a heartbreaking story about his 8-year-old niece offering her piggy bank to rebuild their home. "Standing in my driveway, getting ready to evacuate," he said. "She came out with her little Yeti piggy bank for us to rebuild." And then there's Miles Teller, who once played a firefighter in Only the Brave. Now, his stunning $7.5 million Cape Cod-style home is nothing but ashes. Imagine that irony, playing a hero on screen, only to become a victim in real life. Let's talk about Billy Crystal. This is the place where he raised his children and grandchildren. A home filled with decades of memories. Today, only a chimney stands as a grim reminder. And Paris Hilton? She didn't lose just one home, she lost two, including her iconic beachfront Malibu villa. "This was my sanctuary," she shared, holding back tears. "It's where I got married, where I built my life. Now it's all gone." More than just homes were lost. Imagine this: supercars like Mercedes G-Wagons and Ferraris incinerated, priceless artworks destroyed, and family heirlooms gone forever. For some, it wasn't just their residence, but their life's work and memories. Here's a staggering number for you: $135 billion in damages. That's the combined worth of neighborhoods, businesses, and assets destroyed. Events like this make many people wonder about God's goodness. The Bible proclaims that Jesus Christ holds all of nature together. Could God prevent natural disasters? Absolutely. Does God sometimes influence the weather? Yes, as we see in Deuteronomy 11 and James. Is every natural disaster a punishment from God? Absolutely not. In much the same way that God allows evil people to commit evil acts, God allows the earth to reflect the consequences sin has had on creation. Romans 8 tells us, or even the whole creation, all nature, waits eagerly for the children of God to be revealed. For the creation was subjected to frustration and futility, not willingly, because of some intentional fault on its part, but by the will of Him who subjected it, in hope that the creation itself will also be freed from its bondage to decay and gain entrance into the glorious freedom of the children of God. The fall of humanity into sin had effects on everything, including the world we inhabit. Everything in creation is subject to frustration and decay. Sin is the ultimate cause of natural disasters, just as it is the cause of death, disease, and suffering. We can understand why natural disasters occur. What we do not understand is why God allows them to occur. However, some go as far as to say natural disasters are a fault of Mother Nature. Blaming God is something many people do when life doesn't go the way we want. People think that since God is in charge of everything, He could have stopped bad things from happening. They believe He could have changed things to make them better for us or prevented problems. When He doesn't, they feel He is at fault. In a way, those ideas make sense. I form the light and create darkness. I bring prosperity and create disaster. I, the Lord, do all these things. Then there's Isaiah 46:9-11, which says, "Remember the former things, those of long ago. I am God, and there is no other. I am God, and there is none like me. I say, my purpose will stand, and I will do all that I please. What I have said, that I will bring about. What I have planned, that I will do." If God is okay with taking responsibility for everything, can we really blame Him when we face disaster or heartache? Now, having a good relationship with God doesn't mean we won't face tough times. What should we do when disaster strikes? Often, Christians are tempted to blame God when they suffer. We might even listen to Job's wife, who told her husband in his pain, "Curse God and die." Christians have a special promise that those who don't believe in God cannot claim. Romans 8:28 tells us that all things work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to His purpose. Some people quote this verse and stop right after the word good, but that's not the right way to use it. God added two essential conditions to this promise. It is for those who love God and those called according to His purpose. Instead of blaming God, those who love Him can face hard times knowing that nothing can hurt them without God allowing it for a good reason. He lets tough things happen, even suffering and death, because He has a greater purpose in mind. When we want God's will for our lives more than our own, He doesn't waste any part of our lives. No suffering, sadness, loss, or pain goes to waste for God's people. He can turn our grief and loss into a chance to help others later. He uses hard times to make us stronger and gives us better chances to earn treasures in heaven than we would have had without pain. Instead of blaming God, we should give thanks in everything. Ephesians 5:20. We often want to know why God seems distant when we face tough times and doubts. Even Jesus, while He was being crucified, cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" To the people watching back then, and those who read the story later, it looked like God had abandoned Jesus. This can lead us to think that He will leave us too when we are hurting. However, if we look closely at what happened after Jesus died, we see the truth. Nothing can separate us from God's love, not even death. After Jesus was crucified, He was raised to glory. This shows us that even when we don't feel God with us in our pain, we can trust His promise that He will never leave us or forsake us. Our lives are like a quilt. If you look at the back of a quilt, you see a jumble of knots and threads. It doesn't look nice, and there doesn't seem to be any order. But when you flip it over, you see how beautifully all the pieces fit together, just like in the life of a believer. We may not fully understand God's plans now, but there will be a day when we will know everything. So, where is God when we are hurting? Remember this in difficult times. When you can't see His hand, trust His heart. Know for sure that He has not abandoned you. When you feel weak, that is when you can truly rest in Him and understand that His strength is perfect when we are. But what makes this disaster even more heartbreaking? We live in a world full of pain and suffering. Everyone experiences hard times, and the question, why do bad things happen to both good and bad people? This is one of the hardest questions to answer about God. Since God is in control of everything, we know that whatever happens is either allowed by Him or caused by Him. Right away, we must admit that as humans, we are not eternal, infinite, or all-knowing. We can't expect to fully understand God's plans or His ways. The story of Job in the Bible talks about why God allows bad things to happen to good people. Job was a good and righteous man, but he went through terrible suffering that is hard to imagine. God let Satan do whatever he wanted to Job, except take his life, and Satan made Job's life as bad as he could. How did Job respond? He said, "Though he slay me, yet will I hope in him." He also said, "The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised." Job 1:21. Job didn't understand why God let these things happen, but he trusted that God was good, so he kept his faith. That is the kind of response we should have too. Why do bad things happen to good people? It's hard to admit, but the truth is that none of us are truly good. All of us are affected by sin. Ecclesiastes 7, Romans 3. Jesus said, "No one is good except God alone." Luke 18:19. We all feel the effects of sin, whether it's our own sin or the sin of others. We live in a broken world, and part of that brokenness is injustice and suffering that doesn't seem to make sense. Bad things happen to good people, but this world is not the end. Christians have hope because they know this life is only temporary. We do not lose heart, though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. One day, we will be rewarded in a way that is far better than anything we've experienced here. Bad things happen to good people, but God uses those bad things for a greater good. We know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. Think about Joseph in the Bible. Even though he suffered a lot without doing anything wrong, he was later able to see God's good plan in it all. These sad events prepare believers to help others. Praise be to the Father of compassion and the God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our troubles, so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from God. For just as we share abundantly in the sufferings of Christ, so also our comfort abounds through Christ. People who have been through hard times can better help others going through similar struggles. God has a reason for everything He allows to happen. Even if we don't understand why, we can trust that God is good, loving, fair, and kind. Psalm 135:3. Sometimes bad things happen, and we just don't understand. Instead of questioning God's goodness, we should choose to trust Him. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your paths straight. We are called to live by faith. not by what we see. Right now, when we look around the world, we see alarming news daily. News that reminds us of warnings from the Bible. The Bible is a history book unlike any other available in any public library. Its history starts with the Earth's creation and ends with the world's end. This is the only history book that covers such a broad range of events on planet Earth, partially because no one was present at the beginning to witness and document it. And therefore, no one can write the beginning of our world authoritatively. We are the only people in the world who know how it will all end. That is unique. The Lord did not reveal the future to His followers to satisfy their curiosity. He showed it to prepare them so that they would not be surprised when it arrived and that they would not misinterpret it. Be grateful that Jesus was so forthright in sharing the future for us. People ask, are we in the end times? However, the Bible talks of the last days, and we have been in those last days for 2,000 years. The last days started at Pentecost, where the first prophecy of the last days was fulfilled. Every Christian generation should live to be ready for the Lord's return. So, let's look at Matthew chapter 24, where the disciples asked Him, "What will be the signs or signals of your return? What would we do if we don't know when it's going to happen?" To their inquiry, Jesus gave a direct and unambiguous answer. We can thank God that He responded in such a straightforward manner. In the book of Revelation, He gives a much more detailed and comprehensive response, but here He gives a rundown of the signs that will precede His arrival. The disciples approached Jesus secretly, as He was seated on the Mount of Olives. Later, Jesus sat on the Mount of Olives. His disciples came to Him privately and said, "Tell us, when will all this happen? What sign will signal your return and the end of the world?" Jesus told them, "Don't let anyone mislead you, for many will come in my name, claiming, 'I am the Messiah.' They will deceive many, and you will hear of wars and threats of wars, but don't panic. Yes, these things must take place, but the end won't follow immediately. Nation will go to war against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in many parts of the world. But all this is only the first of the birth pains, with more to come. Then you will be arrested, persecuted, and killed. You will be hated all over the world because you are my followers." Matthew 24. In that passage, He gave 4 distinct signs of His coming. One of the 4 signs is already there, while the other 3 are not. That is why I say we are at the beginning of the end times. So, what exactly are these 4 signs He gave us? The first is natural disasters, and He mentions, for example, wars, famines, and earthquakes. These are indeed happening, but they have been happening for over 2,000 years. They are getting more intense. So we certainly are in this first sign. There are already wars, rumors of wars, earthquakes, and famine. Birth pains is a common way for the Old Testament prophets to describe terrible suffering. It shows the pain that people will face before they are saved. This image helps us understand that there will be a time of suffering before a new age comes. When the kingdom of heaven starts, it brings hope and freedom to its people. But the whole world still goes through these birth pains as it waits for full salvation. Even believers feel this waiting, even though they have the Spirit inside them. Some might think that the idea of birth pains goes against what Jesus said about not knowing when He will come back. After all, birth pains usually mean a baby is coming soon. However, the metaphor of birth pains teaches us something else. The start of childbirth isn't a smooth process. It happens in waves, over and over. The baby doesn't arrive after the first pain, But once the pains begin, everyone knows that the process has started. We just don't know if the baby will come after the 5th pain, the 15th, or even later. Throughout history, we see waves of wars, earthquakes, and famines that remind us that the end is near. Each of these events signals that something is coming, but no one knows when until the Son of Man appears. During this waiting period, we need to stay alert. Some people will try to trick believers into thinking these troubles are the end of everything. But Jesus tells his followers not to be fooled. The first signs are just the start of the pain. But this pain will keep happening and will mark this whole period. This picture shows that once this process starts, the events cannot be stopped.